You know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
And it is for the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
The World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
Welcome to the show. You are listening to the rights and wrongs of pro wrestling, and this is your host, Mr. Green. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for coming back. And I think this is a quick turnaround on episodes because I had promised to get into the, I guess, ultimately the career of Aja Pereira, who we now know as Aja Smith. I had put this off largely because I felt like I was kind of going long in some of these other podcasts that I was doing, and I was trying my best not to get into hours worth of stuff just yet. So I was trying to keep it kind of minimized to about 30, 40 minutes or something along those lines, but I did want to talk about it just because I thought the comment was worth acknowledging and on a kind of more broad scale. But before we go into that, just want to let's get a couple of other things out of the way. As some of you may or may not know, Taya Valkyrie, formerly of Impact Wrestling, I say formerly because she is officially signed with WWE and has moved on over to the land of entertainment, World Wrestling Entertainment. I believe she will be starting at NXT. Look, that wasn't no big surprise. I don't think anybody was shocked about hearing about that when it came up, being that her husband is there already. I actually thought it was just a matter of time. Once Johnny, well, formerly Johnny Impact, what is he back to? He's Johnny Morrison. You know, he's had so many last names. But once he went back to the WWE, I figured that it would happen at some point just because. Especially now, because it seems like Impact Wrestling, they put on a nice quality product, but let's call a spade here and state that Impact is probably number 3 or 4 in the hierarchy of wrestling promotions. You know, WWE, say what you will about them, they are the number 1. They have a ridiculous amount of money that's coming in, and they don't even need people. I mean, this is the first time in WWE's history, I'm getting off track, but this is the first time in the history of the WWE that they pretty much do not need a single person to do anything for them. Not one fan, when you look at it. They get paid $250 million a year off of Fox. They get paid almost $250 million a year off of Raw. The network has just been licensed out. I know people keep saying it's sold, but it's a 5-year contract. So, I mean, I guess technically you can say it's sold. I'm going to say that they have NBC/Peacock has paid $1 billion over the course of 5 years, and not getting it all up front. But they have a lot of money that's coming in. So they don't have any house shows. They don't have any programming. They don't need advertising dollars. They don't need house shows. They don't need you to buy merchandise. They don't need you to buy a ticket. They don't need you to do anything. They will be perfectly fine. If you turn off the TV and not watch another day of Monday Night Raw or SmackDown, it won't mean anything. Now, in 5 years, it'll mean something because they can turn around and say, well, look, you didn't get any views. But at the end of the day, the WWE does not need anybody to support them at this stage whatsoever. Vince McMahon has finally gotten to what he wanted, to the point where the WWE is completely self-contained. And your cheers and boos, they don't even get to judge who's over and who's not based on cheers and boos anymore. It means nothing. Vince McMahon will make those decisions solely based off of his whims. So something like a Daniel Bryan getting over because the fans kind of willed it into being, nope, not going to happen. Anyway, that was way off topic. The point was that I wasn't surprised that Taya Valkyrie went and signed to the WWE. It's not a shock. Her going was an inevitability. As I was saying, Impact Wrestling is probably number 3 or 4 down the list. WWE being number 1, AEW number 2, Impact probably third, and close behind it, Ring of Honor. So I say that hierarchy to say this: when the time comes and they start looking for people, they being the WWE or AEW for that matter, those people are likely going to leave. Whether that be Ring of Honor, whether that be NWA, whether that be Impact Wrestling, and they know their role. They understand it. They try to hold on to them for the time that they have them, and then when that time is up, farewell. We've seen it. What the Rascals? They were like the last major goodbye that Impact did. And then what did the Rascals do? They went over there and won the Dusty Classic. So I mean, how about that? So anyway, Taya Valkyrie. I can only hope that she gets a extended stint in NXT because that's probably where she's going to get her best work in. Although she is a attractive blonde, and we know that how the WWE loves their attractive blondes. So that might bode well for her. Time will tell. I saw news the other day about Paige, who apparently is still hoping to wrestle one day. And I think for her, it is the faith of her coming back is starting to grow, largely because the example has been set. Daniel Bryan came back from neck issues and having concussions, and at a point when the WWE said, "Hey, you're not ever wrestling our ring again," and he did. He managed to get back in there. Edge, same thing. Neck injuries several years ago. I think what was it, 9, almost decade? Oh, well, that might be longer than that. And was told by WWE doctors, "Hey, look, you're not coming. You're not getting back in our ring. You're not coming back." And lo and behold, years later, here he is. Now it took Daniel Bryan running around the country to every doctor on earth and doing what he could to kind of rehab his body and his mind. I mean, he went to top doctors around the country doing what I forget what the procedure was, but he did a lot. He did a lot because he believed in wrestling and he wanted to wrestle again. He did not want his career to end that way. Edge was a little bit different. Edge was somebody who I think by and large had accepted the idea that he was retired and pretty well done until the story being that he fell off his bike one day when he was doing one of those workouts with Sheamus, and he felt pretty good. Like, he tumbled through and he didn't feel bad. And that kind of got the ball rolling in his mind, at least, that maybe I'm better physically than I thought I was. And, lo and behold, he was. And it gave him the ability to finish up his career, or at least, start to finish up his career on his terms. So, bravo to both of those guys. Now, Paige, I think, looking at that, probably sees the example of, well, maybe if I don't give it up, maybe if I don't just tuck the tail between the legs and walk off into the sunset, or however you choose to describe it. If she's able to give enough time to it, work out and rehab and see some doctors aside of the WWE that can give her maybe the assessment that she's looking for, and I think that's going to be the determining factor. That's going to be what it takes. She's going to have to go and find some people like what Daniel Bryan did, or Edge for that matter, because I know his initial doctors were doctors outside of WWE. But she's going to have to find some people that can look at her and suggest what she needs to do and go into whatever recovery that will rehab for her muscles and neck and back that she can before she even thinks about presenting it to the WWE. Now, the other thing that makes this, the other common denominator here, I think that Paige is going to have to keep in mind is that both Daniel Bryan and Edge, aside from whatever workout, whatever rehab, whatever doctors they saw before they came back into the land of WWE, whatever they did medically, one of the things that definitely got the attention of WWE was the fact that they made it clear that other offers existed. Daniel Bryan publicly, before he even left, well, he didn't leave, so let me rephrase that. Daniel Bryan publicly, before his contract expired and he was ready to leave WWE, he made it clear, I am going to wrestle someplace. Now, whether that's in WWE or not, that's their decision. But my doctors outside of this company have told me that I'm fine, and I am going to go, whether that's in Ring of Honor or Mexico or Japan or whatever. He was going to go wrestle. He made that perfectly clear. There wasn't anybody that was staying tuned to wrestling that did not know that. And if we knew it, you better believe that the WWE knew it. And all of a sudden, they gave him another look. And I don't remember whether AEW was a thing or not at that point, but they didn't want to let him go. Edge wasn't quite as vocal about that. He just made it a point to tell McMahon because he felt like he owed him. Hey, look, I got an offer from AEW, and I'm thinking about taking it. And I just wanted to offer that, tell you before I said yes. And they opened up the doors to Edge, and they're, now wait a minute, let's talk about this. And sure enough, you had Edge make a return. Now, I don't know if it's going to require Paige to go and do something along those lines. It probably will, because I'm sure that they do not want to let her go. It is a game of keep away at this point. None of these companies are going to really touch the WWE, but the WWE doesn't want to give the idea of talent that they can just, well, I don't want to say that they could just leave because they can. I should say that about the promotion, that they could just grab up their stars, people that they, quote, invested so much time and effort into. That is probably what it's going to come down to at some point. Because unless you have some sort of leverage over that company, forget your feelings. And I'm trying to keep that as PG as I can. So your feelings and wanting to come back and all that stuff, nah, that's not going to be enough. That's not going to be enough to make them do it. But the real sign here was the tweet that Paige put out on the 19th, which was in response to a tweet that WWE on Fox put out, which had a picture of both Daniel Bryan and Edge, and the tweet retirement, #SmackDown. Paige quote tweeted that and put a little emoji with the fingers crossed saying one day. So we know what she's wondering. She wants to get back in that ring, and Beth Phoenix responded saying, you deserve it. So I don't know how extensive the workouts have been. I don't know how serious it's been taken. I don't know how many doctors she's gone around to go see to check and see if she's physically capable of doing that. Because the last thing anybody wants to do is to let her go inside somebody's ring and she gets hurt. If she's going to be as fit for it as Edge or Bryan were, then that would probably be the big difference. But I don't think that that alone is going to do it. I think it's going to have to come down to her threatening to go. And at this point, I'm pretty sure that Paige, her fear of the company is probably a lot less than the other people in that place. We know there's a lot of people in WWE that are not going to open their mouth as in retaliation to nothing that the WWE says. They ain't trying to ruin a good thing. They're not trying to, knock off a paycheck, or what have you. Paige has come across as her care for the repercussions are not quite as strong as the others may be. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to follow that story. It'll be interesting to see where Paige goes from this point out and whether she can make that comeback. But you can mark your calendars, February 19th, 2021. That was the day that tweet went out. How long and if she can make that happen, that's another story. I don't know whether most of you have heard about Erica Porter. If you don't know who she is, Erica Porter wrestled as Jungle Girl in WoW, and I'm going to see if I could pull up the post. But at some point, she let the world know that she has stage 4 cancer. And what that means for her is that, and this is her words, not mine, the best case scenario for her, and we're talking best case scenario, is that she will have to live with that for the rest of her life, which is absolutely heartbreaking. First off, I hated hearing it, and see, there's two Instagrams that kind of feed into Erica Porter. One being wow_Jungle Girl, and I think that somebody else actually runs that. I'm not totally sure, but there's not a lot of her personal stuff that goes into that. I think it was just kind of fed as being the character, if you will. I really don't like using the term character, but that's all I can really say for it right now. But yeah, I think it kind of feeds off into being the character. The other is endorphasm, which is more her deal than anything. And there was not a tweet, but there was a post that she had on there at one point, which she essentially just went public about it and let everybody know that this was something that she has and she's going to have to deal with. She's going to have to live with. And I'm not really sure because the account has continued to post. It has posted ever since then. But I don't know if it's her because the most recent video that I saw was a news report in her hometown that was kind of talking to her. And you can look it up. If I can remember, I'll put the link up. But they were talking to her, and her hair was cut. I mean, I guess largely to get prepared for the treatments that she was going to have to do. But they still have these other posts that have gone up, and it seems like nothing's changed off her, except for like one or two, I think. But largely, it looks like stuff that you would have seen for her as if nothing ever happened. But I bring it up because she is not really in the wrestling sphere as much as, if this happened to, I don't know, and I'm not wishing it on anybody, but let's just say, I'm not going to say a name. Let's just say a WWE female wrestler. If that had taken place to that, it would have been big news. It would have been all over the place. It would have been, probably forwarded to the news outlets by the WWE themselves, if anything. Um, but she's not. She's not a WWE superstar, or she was never in one of the large promotions like WCW, ECW, or Impact Wrestling, or Ring of Honor for that matter. She did wrestle on the Indies. I always have to bring that up because it's kind of a lost memory as far as most people are concerned. She did wrestle on the Indies briefly. I want to say around 2000 or so, but she has not ever worked at a national property, all due respect to WoW, that garners that type of attention and media focus to where she was going to, where they were going to bring it up. It just, it just doesn't exist. So, that being the case, I said I think I need to bring this up since I am back into doing the show and stuff like that, and we really love her on this program. Um, I don't know what it is I could say that you could do for her, other than maybe relay that you thinking about her, and that you appreciate the time and the effort that she's put into being Jungle Girl for your entertainment and what have you. Um, I, I think she has shirts and things like that for sale through her company, Endorphasm. And I believe that kind of goes towards helping, not necessarily her directly, but some other people that may need the the aid. So it's it's something. I did find it just so people can know. And again, I know I'm doing this mainly for the people where this news kind of passed you by. This was posted in September 22nd, 2020. And again, we don't know how long it was the diagnosis existed prior to that, but she did come public, and the post is basically "fuck cancer" if you're looking for this. And I'm going to read some of that here. It says, sharing a cancer diagnosis is messy, and there's really no easy or right way to go about it. Every fiber of my being would be more than happy to not share any of this and just handle things as I do quietly. However, I have made the decision to make my situation bigger than me, so here I am. I'm an open book, but I'm also extremely private and want to feel as normal as possible and treat it as such. So, no, I'm good, honestly. Barring a miracle or an advancement in modern medicine, I will be living with cancer for the rest of my life, as I am stage 4 breast cancer, lung and bone met. I have a kick-ass team of doctors with a treatment plan that has been approved by the top organizations in the U.S., and I'm already kicking this in the ass, as my initial 7 rounds of chemo have rendered the pesky lung spread undetectable. And I recently underwent radiation to address the spread to my bones in the spine. I don't share this for you, for your pity or sympathy. Most of you know me way better than that. I'm sharing because I want your support, making this much bigger than me. My mission with Endorphasm was to impact people in a deeper and more profound way than simply an hour workout. I wanted to create a fitness environment that brings you closer to your soul, an experience that strips away the bullshit, stripping your mind and body focus allows you to reach beyond your perceived limitations and accomplish your goals. Now, I would like to take it all a step further and create something that goes beyond the Endorphasm walls, the Endorphasm Foundation. And this is where she goes into, and I guess this is the point where you can say that you could help her out at the Endorphasm Foundation. I didn't. It's a fairly long post, and again, you can find that on her Instagram. If you want to look that up, and if you want to purchase the Endorphasm Foundation Fuck Cancer shirt, and any kids out there, I'm sorry, but I'm saying this as it relates to a post. I'm not just cursing for the sake of cursing. Yeah, that just because she is a wrestler, even though it was not in a massive promotion. Again, all due respect to Wild, but they didn't really get that kind of press. Um, I feel like it should be at least acknowledged. So I don't know if she still has the time, the energy, or the will to be listening to this podcast the way that she did before. I know she listened to it from time to time. So, but if you are tuning in, Erica, keep on fighting. You will continue to be our champion. Okay, so moving on to the main event of the podcast, and that would be discussing Aja Smith. Well, some of you probably better know her as Aja Pereira, or at least you preferred her as Aja Pereira. As we know, she is now part of the WWE family as a referee. And the thing that brings this up to me is a post that, not a post, a comment that I got 3 months ago from Michael Burmy. So first off, I want to thank Michael for putting the comment down there. It gave me something to think on. But his comment it was pretty short and sweet. He said, I don't know why WWE sees nothing in Aja as nothing more than a referee. She was solid in that ring. That was his comment. So I wanted to take that and I want to kind of go into her career by and large. Now, if I were going to do a in-depth career perspective or retrospective, I would probably make a video for that, and because it would probably require a little bit more research than just what I'm about to do right now, because she's had more in-depth, but I'm going to give it fairly off the cuff and what I know and what I've had the opportunity to talk to her about and stuff like that. First off, I want to say that Aja, in the time that I have known her, because she did stay local to where I was, and she did, despite the fact that her fame on the Indies came outside of Georgia, she did work in Georgia here and there, and within city limits of Atlanta. So I got a chance to talk to her on a couple of occasions. Sometimes she would just pop up at wrestling shows, and whether she was working there or not, support her sister or friends, what have you. So you kind of run into her in under those environments. Sorry about that. Just brushed the mic. So the first time that I can recall seeing Aja Pereira, if you go into my initial interview of her, there's a series called Introducing, and she was one of the people that I got the chance to talk to at some point and really kind of lay out the bulk of her career. The first time I saw her, she had not even established who Aja Pereira was. She was still in the groups of finding herself, quite honestly, and even she admitted that in the interview. She was she was in black and black and white and polka dots. And this was the stage where she was just kind of like, what's going on? What am I doing? Where am I? Personality. I hesitate to say character, but she was looking to kind of answer those questions. And lo and behold, she found the solution in her kind of love of comic book culture, which gave her the first phase of her existence. The first phase that people recognize, that being Super Pereira. And she worked with that for a while, actually. The whole Super Pereira gimmick. And I have a couple of matches where she is working as Super Pereira. which I know some people had, myself included, had a tough time when she actually transitioned out of being Super, trying to um, not call her that. But that was one of the first phases, and that was when I think she began to pull it together. Now, one other thing that has to be noted in order to address the comment that Michael left on the page is that she almost kind of fell into wrestling. And again, I encourage anybody that wants to know about her or feels like, well, the WWE kind of made her do this. Uh, I really encourage you to go and find that interview and listen to her talk about it, because the thing is that according to her, her sister was the big wrestling fan here. And some of you may know her. Well, she was formerly known as Tragedy, and now she's Ravina Sin. And you should probably look her up. I should do a better job of getting more of her matches on my channel, but I do have a match with her that exists right now. So if you're unaware of Ravina and you have not had the opportunity to see her work, go on to our YouTube channel. You might be on there right now, depending on where you're listening to this at. But go on to our YouTube channel and check her out against Andy Ripley. I think that is the latest match that I had with her in it. Of course, you can find her previous persona, episode 28, taking on her own sister, Aja Super Pereira. But again, within the course of this interview, in so many words, she basically said, she being Aja, that the real fan of wrestling, not that Aja wasn't a fan, but her sister was wanting to become a wrestler. And so she, as a sister, would supported that decision. She was kind of pulled into that. So from what I gathered out of that whole conversation that when we sat down, is that it wasn't necessarily the forefront thing on her mind. There are some people that go out there and there's like, and when I saw that match, I knew that was what I was going to do for the rest of my life. I knew I was going to be a wrestler. That was the thing that I had to do. I don't know if she had that moment. I don't know if that really crossed her like that. So much like Mercedes Martinez, who also didn't set out necessarily to be a wrestler, found out she was just naturally good at it. And I think that's what you got with Aja. She didn't necessarily set out to be a wrestler, but she was just naturally good at it. She had an inherent talent for it. So I don't know if that should play a part in what happened with the WWE later, but we'll get there. Let's progress a little bit more. She also, and I'm gonna try to say this as nicely as I can, but I'm sure if Aja ever hears this, she'll understand exactly what I mean. There was a particular wrestler that was local to this area that was probably the best and worst thing that happened for women's wrestling within this region. That being, she kind of sat as a queen pin on top of all the other girls. So, and by what I mean by that is that in her view, no girl was ever ready. They aren't good enough. If any major talents came in town, she would be the one to take them on, not any of the other girls. No other girl could really come up around her. They were basically used as fodder to keep her on top of her mountain to some degree. Whether she intended to do that or not, that's a whole different issue. And we won't go off of that. But by and large, they were not going to surpass this woman. And that's just the way that it was. Aja and others, her contemporaries being Nina Monet and the Woad, who we now know her as. Back then she was Dimension Rose and then later Double D Rose. They found a way around it, which basically meant we got to leave. We have to leave this state. Because as long as we're here, we're never going to get the opportunity to grow. And so they did. They all left. They all left, and they all found varying degrees of success because they left the state and they found other places that believed in them and gave them the opportunity. So the next thing you know, you're seeing Aja Pereira. She's wrestling, up the East Coast. She's wrestling in Philadelphia and New York. She's in Queens of Combat. She gets to go to Mexico. She goes to Canada. She goes to Japan, which also, not coincidentally, but also kind of turned her next persona around. She went from being super to being the extraterrestrial. Um, you're seeing them get invited to far more locations, uh, working on Shine regularly, winning championships that were kind of on a big deal in women's wrestling on the independent circuit. She was essentially one championship away from a triple crown of Shine before she got signed to the WWE. So there was a lot of change and growth that took place as she traveled around, and I know that a large part of that was she was gonna prove that she could make this work. That much I think was very evident. She was driven. She was driven to make the choice to be a wrestler the right choice, and she did. For nobody can shortchange the wrestling career that she had in the short span that she had it. She found a way to make that decision be the right decision. And I didn't ask her why she did the last. Well, I think I did, but I forgot. Why she did the last change that she did from being the extraterrestrial to being the athletic Aja Pereira, which is the last version of her that we saw before she kind of went away. And yes, Michael's comment is absolutely right. It became exceptional. Every place that she went, she started to get better and better and better and better. One of the things I wish I could find right now, maybe it's still up on her Facebook, is she got a promo. It was like the equivalent of Hogan's promo at Bash at the Beach for her to her local promoters. Because when she first hit the scene, none of them believed in her. None of them. She made it clear. A lot of them just, even when she was asking to be on the shows, they did not want her there. They didn't allow her. They didn't believe in her. However you choose to, to line that up, a lot of them just did not. But then as she grew, when they found out that she was wrestling in Mexico and Canada and Japan and winning championships and on streaming wrestling sites, and she was becoming an indie darling and all those things, suddenly that opinion changed. And they were asking her to come on those shows, and she's like, "No." that turned around. She didn't need that anymore. She didn't need that and didn't need them, and she changed her mind and let them know about it. And she cut a scathing promo. Somebody who was largely considered a babyface for the majority of her career, she let loose on them. Probably the best promo I ever heard her do. And the reason being, I think that she meant every word of it. I think regardless of whether she was doing that in quote character or not, I think she meant every word of what she said. She unleashed on those promoters and let them have it. But we come to the end. I mean, I didn't even know I was going to be giving a career recap, but you might as well do it if you're gonna do it right. So, but we come to the tail end of this thing, which is her transitioning from being the athletic, it's hard for me to say, Aja Pereira to being Aja Smith, who we now see weekly on NXT television. So this is not a case of the WWE hiring her and say, "Hey, you know what? We don't want you as a wrestler. We're changing that. We're gonna make you a referee." some people, I know that's largely what is kind of viewed as, but the truth of the matter is that you have to apply to be a referee. That's a conscious decision, and she made the conscious decision to go after being a ref. One small note that I guess gets kind of lost in the shuffle is that she did referee at least a few times on the independents before she started wrestling. So it's kind of a full circle thing, I guess, if you wanna if you wanna put it that way. She roughed at in a small location. Now she's refereeing for the biggest company in the world. But ultimately, it was a decision that was made by her of her own free volition to apply for that, and they took it. She got the gig. They offer her a contract. We've all seen the video. If you haven't, you should probably go check it out. And it gave her a sense of pride that she was the first African American female referee that company had. Now, this isn't the first time that this has happened. Jessica Carr basically did the same thing. She's a wrestler who worked on the independent as Kennedy Brink, the explanation point, Kennedy Brink. But she went to the WWE and she, on her own volition, signed to apply for a referee also. Now, I'm pretty sure they both at some point in time went in there under the idea that they might get signed as a wrestler, but when offered, hey, do you want to apply for a referee job? I'm sure they'd say, okay, well, why not? I say Aja specifically because of the beginning of this conversation that we're having. I don't know if she was married to the idea that it's wrestling or bust as much as some other people that she came up with are. Some of them I don't believe could take refereeing in their, just based on it being their dream. Like I've dreamed of being a wrestler, and I've only dreamed of being a wrestler. This is my life's goal. This is what I was put on earth to do. I don't know if Aja felt as strongly towards that as some of her contemporaries did and do. I think, and I hope if she happens to hear, she can make her own comments, correct me. I hope that I get corrected. But I think that with her, regardless of natural aptitude, and she did have a natural aptitude for it. She was very good at what she did. I would say right into the range of exceptional. And I have absolutely no doubt. I will put this out there before I go any further about the WWE. I have absolutely no doubt that Aja Pereira would have been signed somewhere, whether that would have been AEW or not. Or, NXT, AEW. Because I believe that the second that either one of those companies showed any sort of interest, the other one would have showed interest. That's just, given. And if not one of them, she probably would have wound up on Impact. Something along those lines. You give her 2 or 3 years from the point that she actually got signed. In some other lifetime, in some other timeline, she probably would have signed as a wrestler someplace anyway. Now that said, going back to the concept of, I don't know if she was married to it as much as some of her other ones are. I don't say that as a knock. I don't say that as a bad thing. I don't say that as an insult to her or her friends. I say that as what I believe to be a statement of fact. I don't think that she was going to live and die off of, well, if I can't be a wrestler, then forget this place. You know what I mean? So all of that to say, there are very often times that we paint the image of the WWE as this massive corporation that does stuff to screw people over on a regular basis. Or as one gentleman said in the podcast about Hollywood, there's very often times that we talk about what Hollywood does wrong. We don't talk about what they do right. I will say that about WWE in this case. There's very often times that we talk about what they do wrong, but we don't talk about what they do right. In this case, if the personal decision by whomever that was there decided that, well, we're not good for Aja Pereira right now, but hey, what do you think about applying for a referee? Well, they gave her the opportunity to be part of that company at a time where, I can't imagine that anybody could at look at the potential for that and say, well, no. Again, unless you were just married to the idea that is wrestling or bust. If that is what your goal is, then yeah, I can see it. But I don't know if that was the goal. I think she's accomplished a lot. There was a point in time when I thought about that with several of her and her colleagues at the time. It's like, in my mind, if they had stopped wrestling tomorrow, you've accomplished a lot already. Regardless of whether they made millions of dollars with it. She traveled the world on the name of Aja Pereira. She, well, at least three different countries. She won championships in promotions, on the name of Aja Pereira and what they believed in her. She's on the WWE network right now through, kind of default, but she's on the WWE network. And I don't mean as a referee. I mean that there's a match with Aja Pereira on there right now under Evolve because, well, they bought the Evolve library. So technically she has got her wrestling match on the WWE network. You can go look it up. And I think it is she has the last match that Shotzi Blackheart had on a major stage before going to WWE, which they both work in now collectively. So go figure. But I think that she accomplished more than she anticipated that she would accomplish, quite honestly. When I look at this and I look at her career and I look at where she started, which, again, kind of fortunate that I got the chance to see that within the first year or so of her kind of stepping onto the scene. She accomplished more than I believe that she ever imagined that she would. And now she is working for a major corporation. Say what we will about the WWE. I mean, I hesitate to say it's beyond a wrestling promotion, but it's beyond a wrestling promotion. It's a major corporation right now. And truth be told, if she played her cards right, she could probably find herself working in that company doing any number of things if she really tried to do it. She could find herself in the office or backstage agent, writer. Who knows where she could find herself at. But when you're not even 30 yet and you're working for a company like that and can kind of lay the foundations for your future, I would say that's a pretty fair job. So ultimately, it is not the company that chose to put her in that position. It was a decision that she made herself. And, she's certainly enjoying it. If you follow her on Instagram, you can definitely see that it is something that she is very happy. And the real catch here is that she has found her love off of that. And I don't mean the job. I mean that her fiance is right there with her. So I don't think there's anything that she has better. I don't think she has any regrets. I don't think that she looks back and like, oh shit, I wish I was wrestling in the main event right now at NXT Takeover. Maybe that crosses her mind. I don't know. I'm not a mind reader, but I don't think that she has enough regret for her to go home and be miserable, like some people have claimed to do when they in WWE, even when they was getting paid six figures. Like, I hated it. I was this, that, and the other. I think that she's doing just fine. So that's it. I just, that this is kind of a bonus. And I wanted to make sure because I kept putting it off. I wanted to talk about this for a while and I didn't do it. But now I have. I got it out and we've talked about a brief glimpse into the career of Aja Pereira, aka Aja Smith, from NXT. So, I guess I would take this time and say maybe I should go into talking about some of their other stuff and the Impact Knockouts division the next go round, or perhaps the Dusty Classic that they have done. I mean, there's any number of things that we can talk about going forward, but maybe another spotlight. Maybe going through somebody else's career that I've had the opportunity to get to know and talk to and sit down with. You let me know if you have any questions, comments, suggestions that I can kind of root around to. If you are feeling supportive, feel free to go onto our Teespring store and get a shirt. You know, having those does support the channel. You can go onto our website and hit the donate button if you want to help see that the next crop of young ladies get the matches that they deserve. Because believe me, and Aja could tell you, getting matches in Georgia or in this state is not, Southeast really, is not as easy as it's perceived to be. So if you want to help them and you want to help kind of provide a venue, a platform for them to be seen, for them to be heard, for them to become the next generation of stars that you may see on Impact, on Ring of Honor, on NWA, on AEW, on WWE, then they got to start somewhere. They might as well start with us. Patreon, clicking the links there. You can also go and drop in $1 and get acknowledged on there, or however you choose to support, whether that be following, liking, subscribing, sharing the videos, sharing the podcast, and the MP3s. All of it is very well appreciated, and we will enjoy every bit of support that you can provide. That is going to be it for this particular episode. Again, your suggestions, please feel free to drop them. Just want to rope back around to Erica Porter there for a moment and say that if you have the time, drop her a line as well in Dorfasm, or perhaps wow_Jungle Girl on Instagram. Let her know that you care, man. Let her know that y'all are thinking about her. So with that, I am going to close this one out. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for downloading. Thank you for liking and subscribing and all that you do, and whatever means of support that you have shown. It is always appreciated. And this is Mr. Green saying that this is Mr. Green saying so long, folks, and we will see you on the next go round.